Thank you, Heather. The Paris terror attacks ignited a worldwide debate over Syrian refugees stretching from Europe to America, where even some governors are trying to block them from entering their states. CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground in war-torn Syria and brings us a voice missing from the debate. As Ephraim Graham reports, it's the voice of those fleeing for their lives.
Refugees are front-page news, and the headlines only increased. Following reports, authorities found a Syrian passport near an assailant killed in the deadly Paris attacks.
You know, we're hearing stories about ISIS infiltration and all that, and I think that's good that we're aware of these possible problems.
Operation Blessing President Bill Horan recently witnessed the refugee crisis firsthand. He stood at the border of Hungary and Croatia, where thousands arrived, having crossed 9 borders to reach that point.
You have been on the front lines now. What are we not hearing? What are we not seeing?
We're certainly only seeing one side of the story. And the side of the story that I keep noticing that's being left out is the story from the perception of the refugees. The vast majority of these folks, at least the ones that we've interacted with, that we met, that we talked to while we were over there, they're not terrorists at all.
These are some of the faces. Photographs taken by Operation Blessing's David Darg, who spent time talking to those whose images he captured.
They said we had 3 choices. We could either be conscripted into the Assad regime and fight for Assad, or we have to fight for ISIS, forced to fight for ISIS, or we can just stay here and be killed. So when we see these attacks happening in Paris and all this terror happening around the world, we need to understand that's the very terror that these people are running from, not running towards.
There are many young men among those running, and it's no accident. That's a blessing Bill learned talking to a 27-year-old Syrian Christian whose family pooled their money to send him.
He said, I went to the meeting. I did not volunteer to leave my home and come to Germany. I was chosen by the family as the one most likely to make it across 9 borders, across a 17-hour ride in a rubber boat from Turkey to Greece. He said, I was seasick for 17 hours and I was sure I was going to die. He said, we were all praying out loud, praying to the Lord just to get us to the other side. He said, many people drowned on the way.
So it's essentially desperation is where they're leaving, they're fleeing.
They're leaving out of desperation, of course.
Still, not everyone is able to flee. That's why Operation Blessing isn't just stopping at the border.
We're actually working inside Syria. We've got partners that are inside Syria, in the northeastern part of Syria, the area that is still safe from ISIS, at least now, because the Kurds are defending that area. There are Syrians that are there, Christian Syrians that speak Aramaic, the language of Jesus.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Thank you, Ephraim. Pat, so many stories of desperation and urgent need.
The thing you got to remember is Operation Blessing was there. This isn't part of the hype. The trouble is the hype now is you've got to be against refugees. And if you're not against refugees, somehow you're not a good Republican, or you're not conservative, or you don't like America or something. These people are hurting, and our guys were there with them. And the ones they talked to, a lot of them are Christian. And they just have to get out or get killed. I mean, that's what Bill Horan was saying, and he's there talking to them, and we're working now in northern Syria. But ladies and gentlemen, what Operation Blessing is doing, you're giving food, you got plastic tarps to keep them warm, you've got clothing, you have other things that they desperately need, and we're there for them. So that's what Operation Blessing does, is to help people. But it does seem to me like there's so many Christians and so many people who love freedom in that group that they themselves could do some checking on which in that group are actually ISIS sympathizers and supporters. And they could help the authorities identify those people. But really, they don't belong in America. That's not their destination. They should be resettled close in the Middle East, where they have the roots and where they've been for so many years. And there has to be some effort to do that. But this is a humanitarian tragedy of massive proportion. And if you want to help, by the way, Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund, and we're there, folks. We're there on the scene where those people are and where they're hurting. So all you got to do, pick up your phone or log in on the internet, and there's the number and there's the address. But we're not going to let those people starve. We got to do something to help them.
You know, it sure does put a different face on the refugee crisis when you see that story.
Well, they've talked to me. Bill talks to these people. They've actually interviewed them. They know the heart and the people. They're just crying out. We had to flee, and that one young man said out of his family, they took up an offering, and his cost, I mean, those traffickers are charging $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 to get them across the water. And the reason so many young men are coming is because their families say, you're the only ones that can survive this ordeal to get to the other side.
Yeah, that's a story we haven't heard. Thanks, Pat.
I know.